I'm Eddie Muller, welcoming you back to Noir Alley. This week, let's imagine the alley is situated off a foggy waterfront street in a sleepy California beach town. That's the evocative setting for today's feature, Fallen Angel, from 20th Century Fox in 1945. Its reputation has always suffered from comparison to Otto Preminger's first noir, Laura, released to unanimous acclaim the previous year. Even though Laura and his next film, A Royal Scandal, were hits, Preminger never felt he was on stable ground at Fox, even though he and studio boss Darryl Zanuck had smoothed out their acrimony. To prove he was a team player, Otto pitched a story in which the plot and setting, a claustrophobic web of deception revolving around sexual obsession and murder, had definite echoes of Laura. Hoping lightning would strike twice, Zanuck bought the rights to Fallen Angel. The novel was the debut effort of author Marty Holland, or more accurately, Mary Holland. In her early 20s, Mary Hohenstein changed her last name. Now, lots of people did that back then to appear less ethnic in the public sphere. But that wasn't the significant change. She stuck a T in her first name as well, becoming Marty. She figured a man's name would help make her more marketable in the 1940s publishing business. Holland was a studio typist at Paramount, earning $40 a week, but her ambition was to write crime fiction. Her novel-length treatment for Fallen Angel sold to Fox for $40 grand prior to its publication by Dutton and Company. Its first edition featured a glam author photo, revealing Marty Holland as a beautiful young woman. But by the time the movie's tie-in edition was released, no photo or bio of Marty Holland. Likewise with the paperback edition, retitled Blonde Baggage. If you didn't buy the hardcover, you had no idea the writer was a woman. Now, to write the script, Preminger hired Harry Kleiner, a first-time screenwriter who'd been a student of his at the Yale School of Drama. Kleiner was a Russian who grew up in Cuba and spoke Spanish as his first language. He was planning on being a doctor, but when he realized he couldn't stomach the sight of blood, he decided to be a writer instead. His deftness with dialogue is evident here, and in films such as Street with No Name and Sam Fuller's House of Bamboo. Kleiner wasn't terribly prolific, but he had a long career. As sultry hash slinger Stella, Zanuck cast 21-year-old Linda Darnell, Fox's sexiest starlet, who was being groomed for superstardom. Casting the role of virginal heiress June Mills was a bit trickier. Alice Faye had taken a 2-year hiatus from her Fox contract to start a family and was looking for a dramatic role to break her typecasting as a songbird, which dated back to her first roles in the early 30s. She hit it big when Fox merged with 20th Century Pictures, and Zanuck made her the new studio's biggest musical star. She was America's #1 song plugger in the estimation of Irving Berlin, Cole Porter, and George Gershwin, making hits of songs like Wake Up and Live, In Old Chicago, and You're a Sweetheart. In the 30s, she introduced 23 hit songs in her movies. She married and divorced singer Tony Martin, and after marrying bandleader Phil Harris, she throttled back on her acting and singing to become a mother, having 2 daughters in the early 40s. She passed on more than 3 dozen scripts before deciding that Fallen Angel was the one to revive her career. She thought it would lead to more straight dramatic roles as she got older, even if she wasn't yet 30 when she made this film. Faye and Zanuck were not on particularly good terms, and she only agreed to do this film if Dana Andrews played the lead. But Andrews didn't like the script or his character. He wanted to play the male lead in Leave Her to Heaven, which eventually went to Cornell Wilde. Threatened with a 6-month suspension, Andrews reluctantly climbed on board. And he wasn't the only holdover from Laura. Otto also enlisted Joseph Lachelle as the cameraman, David Raxon as the composer, and Bonnie Cashin as costume designer. And the movie starts with a striking title sequence, one of the best in any film noir. Initially, David Raxon's original composition, Slowly, was to play over the credits. But Raxon felt the melancholy tune conflicted with the unique title design. Instead, he composed a piece full of urgency and anxiety, reflecting the protagonist's state of mind before we even meet him. Many people think of this film as an inferior version of Laura. I am not one of them. Despite a sometimes awkward balancing of multiple storylines, the film has a strong premise, terrific performances, and a deeply noir atmosphere. It deserves to be considered on its own terms, not in comparison to Laura. From 1945, also featuring Charles Bickford, Bruce Cabot, Percy Kilbride, and John Carradine. This is Fallen Angel.